Nico, you got a new microphone. This is my friend's mic. My mic is still broken. Welcome to the full Avengers review. I decided I'd change it up again. I like changing things up in my videos. This isn't a very, comic book-esque backdrop, though. I don't know. Give me 1 second.
Ah, shit.
Okay, so I got $10 saying that doesn't work because there's not enough light on the green screen, but whatever. Alright, so this is going to be the full Avengers Infinity War review. This is going to include spoilers, because like my buddy Rob said,
a spoiler-free review would basically come down to, it was good, thanks for watching guys, peace.
and I agree. For those of you who are living under a rock and don't know, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is basically a bunch of interwoven films with one interconnected storyline that leads to a grand picture called Avengers Infinity War. This has been advertised as the culmination of everything that's been building since 2008 with the first Iron Man, or at least since 2012 when Thanos first appeared. The film stars pretty much everyone. Every Marvel character you can think of. I kind of don't want to list the cast because the cast is extensive. This is the type of movie where I think to myself, I am glad to be alive in this time period. There's a lot of reminders out there how much I don't want to be in this time period. You know, I'm pretty much reminded every day by someone doing something stupid that I don't want to be here in this time period, but this movie makes me glad that I was born in the 90s and that I got to see this whole thing come to fruition. Look, this film is about this mad titan named Thanos who basically wants to bring balance to the universe. He wants to bring balance to the universe because his home world of Titan, obviously, was cursed with overpopulation. Basically, there wasn't enough resources to go around, and basically, he wants to get rid of half of the universe to balance it out. And balance is a huge theme and a huge motivator for Thanos in this movie, showing Gamora the balancing of the knife, or of how if you lead one side too much, the whole scale tips. And that's in his mind. So basically he's on this quest to find all 6 Infinity Stones, which basically grants him the ability to do anything he wants. He can simply snap his fingers and get rid of half of the life in the universe. Trillions of lives. Obviously, the Avengers are there to stop him. Now, why am I bringing up like this is Thanos' movie? Because technically, this really is Thanos' movie. You can watch this movie almost as if Thanos is the main character and what he's doing is right. You can watch the movie, like the filmmakers, the Russo brothers and McFeely and Marcus, they advertised this film and promoted this film like it's Thanos' movie. It's his story. And honestly, if you view it from his point of view, it really is his story. Because the Avengers can almost be seen as the villains of this movie. Like, they're viewed as like this outside force that's trying to stop Thanos from bringing balance to the universe. And in some ways, he has a good point. Because he killed half of Gamora's world. Yes, that was a terrible thing to do, but ever since then, there's nothing but clear skies and full bellies, as Thanos says. The world was made better. But one thing I think about Thanos that is great is that he has an ego. You can warp reality. You can travel through space. You have unlimited power. And yet, instead of doing something like doubling the resources, he just removes half of all life in the universe. Now that really shines to his ego. His quest is to basically prove to himself that he was right, which is why I think Thanos makes such a great character. I honestly think this film is damn near perfect. The great thing about Avengers Infinity War is that things that normal movies have to do, developing characters and making them relatable in such a short amount of time and delivering such a great payoff, this movie doesn't have to do that. Because it's already built up all of its characters with all these other movies, with all this different character development that's been displayed throughout all these films. All these characters are already developed because they've had years, 10 years of films to be developed, you know? And that's something that this movie does not suffer from. So this film doesn't need to spend so much time developing these characters because they're already developed to us. We already know these characters. We already know Captain America and Iron Man and, you know, Peter Quill and all these people, so we don't need to have them developed for us. That being said, the action is spectacular. Okay, the Russo brothers have a great eye for action. We've seen that since Winter Soldier, and it continued into Civil War and in Infinity War. The choreography is spectacular, and you can't go wrong with the Russo brothers. One thing I liked about the film is that the film really moves at such a nice pace. A lot of people say that it's too fast, it's too breakneck, but I didn't have a hard time following it. Especially the second time where I could sort of just relax because I knew what was coming. I didn't really feel the breakneck pace of it. I didn't really feel any slow moments. I always say that pacing is a big issue for me in films recently. Pacing is very difficult, but this film masters it by compartmentalizing all these characters into their own quadrants of the film. Captain America's group is on this mission, while Thor is on this mission, and while the Guardians and Iron Man are on this mission, and it's all connected perfectly. I was a little upset that not all the characters came together in like one spectacular shot, but that's not what this film is really about. This film is very dour compared to the other Avengers films, which we'll get to in a second about the ending. But overall, it was great. Red Skull appearing in the film blew my freaking mind. The thing with Thanos is that the stakes are developed in the first pretty much 2 minutes of the film. Thanos and his Black Order board Thor's ship from the end of Thor Ragnarok, and it's basically established right away that Thanos is a badass and you don't want to mess with him. He kills Loki straight up. He is dead. He is not coming back. They make it a point to say no resurrections this time, and I believe him. Thanos really is a force to be reckoned with, and I think he's a better character than what he is in the comics. Because in the comics, it's more of just he's in love with death, and I know there's more philosophy about it. You can look at NerdSync's video about that to really get into the philosophy of Thanos. I think I like his motivation here better. He's almost trying to help the universe because of what happened to him. Yes, he has an ego, and yes, he has a severe problem, but he sort of has a point. Now, I'm not saying he's right, but sort of like Killmonger had a point to many people, I think Thanos sort of has a point, but I would never, ever sympathize with something like that. You know, he's basically this dictator who runs around committing genocide, so he's terrible. And that's the thing, the deaths in this movie have real weight to them. Heimdall dies, Loki dies, Gamora dies, and those are the three that I honestly think might be dead. With Gamora, a lot of people think she's trapped in the Soul Stone, which hints toward at the end. I honestly think she's dead. I don't think she's coming back. Even in the comic books, Peter Quill married Kitty Pryde right now. I honestly think that in future movies you can have a different female Guardian kind of fill that void for Peter. But I don't think she's coming back. And that gets me to the ending. This ending ends on such a dour note. Pretty much all the Avengers die. I mean, Scarlet Witch, Vision dies twice, Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Black Panther, all of the Guardians except Rocket, Winter Soldier, Falcon, they all die. And honestly, that took some real balls, and I admire Marvel for it. And it's sort of like a lose-lose situation because I want a lot of these characters to come back. I want them to come back, but I feel like if they come back, then the weight of this film is kind of undermined. But I mean, they can't kill off Black Panther, but who knows? I honestly don't know. Maybe they did kill off Spider-Man and he'll be replaced by Miles Morales. People are already theorizing what they're going to do with the next one. Which, by the way, side note here, please be careful with your theorizing. As a guy who liked The Last Jedi, sue me, I think people theorizing too much is what helped ruin that film for a lot of people. You know, theorizing is fun, but I really think when people spend a year just building up their own movie in their own heads and it doesn't meet their expectations because obviously the real movie is going to be different, they're biased against that movie. And that's something that I kind of wish people would just not do. Snoke in Star Wars, a lot of people were theorizing that he was Darth Plagueis. Everyone was theorizing that. If he did turn out to be Darth Plagueis, I'd be like, alright, that's cool. I mean, I saw it coming because everyone theorized it. I appreciated the twist that he was just this evil guy. Because in the original trilogy, that's who the Emperor was. The Emperor wasn't developed until the prequels. So you have to remember that when the original trilogy came out, the Emperor was just an evil guy. The same way Snoke is. I am getting so off track right now. Back to Marvel. This film ends on such a dour note to the point where even the credits, there's no big end credit spectacle. It's just black screen with white text. And I'm really excited to see what they're going to do with the next one.
There are two complaints I want to address.
One thing is that a lot of people saying that the tone shifts are very jarring, but I disagree. I think the tone shifts really work. I think the Russo brothers balance the tone from the Guardians universe to the Captain America universe very well, because those movies have very different tones even though they take place in the same period, or the same universe, but I think the Russo brothers did a good job of balancing those tones as much as they could, and I think they pulled it off. The second thing I want to address is the Black Order. I've heard many people complain that the Black Order are basically just one-dimensional henchmen and you don't really understand their origin. But honestly, I think they served their purpose in the movie, and I don't think they needed to be developed. Not every character needs to be developed, in my personal opinion. I never cared about the origin of Oddjob or Jaws from the James Bond movies, the same way I don't really care about the origins of Cole Obsidian or Ebony Maw or Proxima Midnight. I just don't really care. You know, I think they served their purpose in the movie, and henchmen don't really need backstory. I know I'm forgetting stuff because I didn't write anything down. This is all just in my head. Here is some of my complaints about the movie. This film is damn near perfect, so a lot of this is just nitpicks. One thing I didn't understand was Thor's journey, because in the context of Ragnarok, Thor's journey doesn't really make sense. Ragnarok was all about Thor not needing his hammer anymore. His arc in the movie was realizing that he didn't need the hammer. The power was always within him. What are you, Thor, the god of hammers? So it was kind of weird that this film had Thor, he needed this new weapon. It's like, oh, I need my hammer again. I need this new weapon to defeat Thanos. But the whole point of Ragnarok was that you don't need a hammer. You don't need a weapon. Awesome scenes with that hammer, though, so I'm not really complaining too much. It's just the continuity really isn't right. I think Thor as a character was kind of, it's weird because Ragnarok kind of deconstructed Thor and basically made him an entirely new character. And then this film kind of just rebuilt him the way he was in a way. He's still like humorous, but he got his eye back pretty quickly, so he doesn't have an eye patch anymore. He has two eyes again, and he has a hammer again, and his suit is basically the same thing. Again, that's a nitpick. I like Thor as a character. I like the new direction they're taking him in. That was a bit strange. It's also really weird watching the end of Ragnarok and then watching the beginning of this, because Thor saves all of Asgard only to have half of them die literally 10 minutes later. It's kind of sad. So honestly, I didn't really care that it sort of didn't acknowledge some of the things in Ragnarok, because I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I'm not the biggest fan of Thor Ragnarok. But yeah, honestly, I think a lot of that is kind of a detriment more to Thor Ragnarok than it is to Infinity War. Another thing that was a bit annoying, again, this is all nitpick, is that Ant-Man and Hawkeye are not in the film. Ant-Man and Hawkeye are addressed by Steve in a line that they're under house arrest right now, which you can see in the Ant-Man and the Wasp trailer. Some characters that aren't even acknowledged or seen is Valkyrie and Korg, who are on the ship with Thor. They just sort of vanish. You know, maybe part 2 will address that. I don't think they really needed to be there to fill the movie out. And honestly, when you watch Avengers Infinity War and then Avengers 4 back to back, they're probably going to seem like one big movie anyway. And that's the thing also I sort of have an issue with, and this is more of the marketing than it is the actual film. This film started early on when they announced it as a two-parter, but then they announced that, no, this is the culmination of everything in the MCU. This is the culmination of everything since Iron Man 1. So I'm like, okay, so Avengers 4 is going to be completely different. So Avengers 3 is going to be one movie, everything wrapped up, boom. And yet they end this film on a huge-ass cliffhanger. It's weird that they're promoting Avengers 4 as it's not Infinity War Part 2. It's a completely different film, yet they end this one on such a huge cliffhanger. People are talking about it like it's a two-parter. It's basically a two-parter. So it is weird that they sort of advertised it as everything wraps up, this is it, we're done after this, and yet they leave it on such a huge cliffhanger. But again, I admire it, because now I'm like, I don't know what they're going to do in the future. I don't know what they're going to do in Avengers 4. I don't know if all these characters are going to stay dead. I don't know if some of them are going to come back. I don't know if any of them are going to come back. I really don't know. And I am super excited to see what they do next with it. I've been waiting for this film 10 years. I am a huge Avengers fan, a huge comic book fan. Ever since I was a kid, I loved Avengers. I wear this Avengers hoodie all the time. This Avengers hoodie I've had for years. My friend Angela actually made this for me while I was in college for Age of Ultron. Honestly, this film gets a 10 out of 10 for me. I mean, I can't knock this film down any points, because maybe I have those not nostalgia goggles on, but fanboy goggles on, and I can't see the flaws that are genuinely there. But look, I can see I saw the flaws in Black Panther and Spider-Man and Thor Ragnarok, but this one was just damn near perfect. I loved every second of it, and I'm gonna see it a third time, maybe a fourth, who knows. This film is on its way to being the highest grossing film of all time, beating Avatar, and honestly, like, I kind of hope it does, because Avatar, on a side note, does not hold up. This film is almost life-changing for me, because, again, being such a comic book fan, when I was a kid, I never thought I would see the Infinity Gauntlet storyline on the screen with real people. I used to imagine it with real people in my head, play with my friends, pretending to be Spider-Man and Captain America and Thor and all that, and then boom, it's right in front of my eyes. That is amazing. People in school used to make fun of me for liking Marvel, and now those kids are the first ones in line to go see it. So there's your life lesson. If you like something, don't lather, because you're probably just one step ahead of the curb. Clever catchphrase. I'm out. Peace.